can't talk about the Bucks anymore because I really want to tee you up for the Knicks.
Whew. All right. I hope everyone has an hour and a half. I have talked too much about Tom Thibodeau and the front office. It's time to talk about RJ Barrett.
Okay.
And the question is, I'm not answering it. I want to make that clear. Was the RJ Barrett extension a mistake? And did they overvalue him in general, where they could have had Donovan Mitchell for RJ Barrett and hella picks per Donovan Mitchell, which was like the best way to phrase it anyway. He has been so uneven this season. Listen to these splits. First 5 games of the year, 34.6% from two, 14.3% from three. His next 7 games after that, 45.5% from two, 42.9% from three. The following 5 games after that, 45.5% on twos, holding steady, 2 of 25 on threes, 8%. Then he goes on Monday night, is 10 of 16 from the floor. So a direct game after that. There needs to be more semblance of offensive consistency from RJ Barrett. He was finishing better at the rim at one point. That has now dropped back below 60%. He was hovering around 60% per cleaning the glass there. That has now dropped back below 60%. The thing I will say in his defense, and I also think he's gotten better, but he's had some really just like defensive moments this year where he feels eminently screenable. And it's like, well, that's not the RJ Barrett that I've grown to appreciate over the past couple seasons. They've done it a little bit more, probably because they have to with some of the lineup decisions they've been dealing with. He needs to be staggered more from Julius Randle. That number, and I've cited this a bunch of times now, not on the podcast, but in stuff I've written, 82.5% of RJ Barrett's possessions are coming next to Julius Randle. Now, the Knicks are in the 66th percentile offensively during those minutes, but Jalen Brunson's on the court then. The Knicks are winning the minutes RJ plays without Randle, even though the offense is in the 25th percentile. Now, if you do RJ and Brunson without Randle, the complexion of that's going to change a lot. I also don't think we've seen RJ Barrett with enough of just the youngsters. Like, let's play him with Quickly and Reddish. I know Grimes has not been too healthy there. My point is, I don't think it's entirely his fault. The lineup context does not favor him. It puts him in a bunch of different roles. The Knicks don't always have pristine spacing. That being said, I guess I don't know what the consensus expectations were for RJ Barrett, but he was entering this season. You knew Jalen Brunson was the Knicks' best player. RJ Barrett, in theory, is still your single most important player because that's supposed to be your blue chip prospect, the guy who gives you a line to an internal star. I think we're finding increasing evidence just based on his efficiency that he's not going to be that guy, which in the macro is fine, but it's a problem when you treated him as such in the Donovan Mitchell trade talks. What I also will say, RJ Barrett has historically just been terribly inefficient in November and December. So there's a point that by the new year, he finishes the season on a tear. That's also not good enough. And so I don't think they've optimized the roster around him. That is on the Knicks. And so if I was to answer my own question, which I said I wouldn't do, I'm not going to say RJ Barrett is a bust or be completely out of RJ Barrett. But are we at a point where there needs to be some more wholesale discussions about RJ Barrett? If we're not there yet, we're getting pretty damn close.
Yeah, Barrett has been I feel like I've changed my opinion on him once a year in all 4 years of his career. And it has generally coincided with whatever really hot, like 6 or 8 or 10 game streak of 3-point shooting he goes on. And I think there was a much longer one either last year or the year before where like for half the season, he was on decent volume, a really good 3-point shooter. I can't look that up with the level
His
of
second
specificity
year,
right
he was a good 3-point shooter. There was a
Right.
lot of off ball stuff, but you don't need him to you don't have to hit the off the dribble three.
Yeah. I don't think the contract is a disaster. I think maybe this is assuming Donovan Mitchell just doesn't sign with the Knicks when he's a free agent, which just seems like based on his comments is very much on the table. I think it was probably a mistake if Barrett being in the deal was if the Knicks' unwillingness to trade Barrett was what kept Donovan Mitchell from being on the roster this year, because I don't think Barrett is a blue chip prospect. I think just there's lots of, there are these all external factors that you mentioned, like whether it's coaching, whether it's who he's got to play alongside, the lack of spacing that Randall and Mitchell Robinson create, but just like he's a high usage wing who the best he's ever ranked in points per shot attempts is in the 39th percentile. That was in his second year. He's generally like a bottom quartile guy in just scoring efficiency. And it's all like he gets to the rim a lot. He finishes okay, you know, the volume matters, but everything else is just you can't count on the ball to go in enough. And so where does that leave you if he's not a pure shutdown guy? It's early, but we are 4 years in. It's fair to say like there's development ahead potentially, but you needed to have seen some signs of consistency in some area, right? Like so, other than the hot streaks, other than oh he's really put the clamps on for a couple weeks. Like he's an okay passer, and that works well on the drives. Like his assist percentage is high for his
When he doesn't have
position.
tunnel vision on those drives, yeah.
He does but I mean, part of it is he's just barreling into guys, and he's like it's like a last resort pass type of thing when the tunnel closes more, and he's got to do something. Yeah, I hate to just like decide, well, this guy is not going to have a certain ceiling, but like I feel like we would have seen more by now to suggest that he could be that blue chip piece. Like again, the contract's not like a crippler. I don't feel like we have to say the cap's going up and all this other stuff. He's still young. He plays a high value position. Like that's there are ways forward. But I'd sure rather have Donovan Mitchell. I think that I don't feel like that's debatable at this point.
I still stand by, like, we don't actually know what the final tally was on the picks. There's a point where it was probably too many picks for me to do it, but RJ Barrett being the deciding factor. And look, I had toyed with it where I didn't know if you were trading RJ Barrett and a bunch of picks to get Donovan Mitchell, I didn't know if you should do it. I would have been very much more open to including RJ Barrett based off what I've seen
Right.
from him this season. But I will note, and we didn't focus on this just because we focused on so much. RJ Barrett's not the biggest problem in New York.
Of course not. No.
I think the pathway before you look at was RJ Barrett a mistake is, hey, can we get rid of the actual mistake on the roster, which is Julius Randle? And so that opens, and by the way, that opens up the pipeline for Obi Toppin as well.
Yeah.
So you're kind of killing two birds there.
Yeah. Well, and this isn't any great revelation either, but just if the guy's clear offensive strength is getting to the basket, get everyone the fuck out of the way. Like stop having multiple players out there who either don't need to be guarded off the ball or are literally standing in the way of Barrett trying to get to the basket.
And they've played some just like smaller burst lineups where it's almost 5 out. If you depending on how you feel about Barrett, with like Brunson and Hartenstein and Toppin, and then they have another perimeter player and there was not Julius Randle. Like let's just see more of that. That. And that's the problem is that you have Julius Randle. Right. And it's just like there's this implicit obligation to play him or feature him. And I do think that's really hurt RJ. And I would love to see just more RJ and Brunson just independent of Randle for like a long stretch.
Yeah.